To reach one is to reach all. Conscious channeling of love light research, shared with you by a humble messenger of the Law of One. I am Robert. Our question tonight for QO: one gets the impression when reading the mystical text within the distortions of Christianity, Zen Buddhism, Sufism, the yoga of Hinduism, and other non-codified systems of thought, that the path to enlightenment demands of the seeker a great quantity and quality of time and energy and focus. What would you say to the seeker of enlightenment whose obligations of service to family, work, and society seem to preclude the possibility of devoting the requisite time and energy? Additionally, can sufficient will and faith overcome these daily limits upon available time and energy? We are those of the principle known to you as QO. We greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator, in whose service we come to you this evening. It is a great privilege and pleasure to be asked to join your circle of seeking. We thank you for inviting us to share our thoughts with you. As always, we would ask you to employ your discrimination while listening to or reading that which we have to say. It will enable us to speak freely if you will do so. For not all of our thoughts will meet all of your needs, and it is important to us that we do not infringe upon your free will or disturb your processes by suggesting that we are in some way authorities who must be listened to regardless of what we say. My friends, this is not true. We are those who share our thoughts with you, just as you would share your thoughts with us. And just as we would listen to you with discrimination, so we would ask you to listen to us with that same discrimination, using those thoughts that are helpful to you and leaving the rest behind. We would note that this evening the speaker for QO is Hatan rather than Latwi. We note this in case those who are aware of our thoughts find a difference in the vibration, finding it more towards the energy of love than towards the energy of wisdom. The query and the constitution of the group requires more of a focus on the fourth density energies of unconditional love and compassion. Your query this evening has to do with the nature of the spiritual master, or perhaps to use a better word, the spiritually mature entity. The questioner notes that no matter what the religious conviction of the seeker, those who write inspiring material seem to be those who have dedicated their entire lives to the pursuit of the one infinite Creator, not necessarily working for a living or engaging in relationships of a personal nature or the raising of a family. This is a very interesting query, and we shall attempt to look into this from several different points of view. Firstly, we would look at the supposition that inspiring works are generally written by those whose lives have been set apart from the general run of society. This is true. The works most admired by those who seek the truth are those works that were the product of lifetimes of contemplation and devotion. Each of the religions has its long list of those entities whose lives were set apart and dedicated in devotion to the one infinite Creator. Out of those dedicated lives have come many books, poems, koans, sutras, and Vedas, and they have been a blessing to many. In the Oriental and Eastern portions of your world, and in primitive societies in general, the office of guru, a shaman, or priest is an office that is held in high esteem by the tribe or people, and each tribe or village has such a beloved and well-supported figure. This entity is given honor and is part of the very fabric of the tribe or village. The guru or shaman is not precisely set apart from the rest of the population. However, it is a full-time role. It is respected, honored, and needed. There is no feeling for the Western concept of going to church on one day in a week and not thinking about spiritual matters any other time. Rather, there is the sense of the world as a magical and spiritual place altogether, a world of mystery, which the guru or shaman may interpret with words or may explicate in his silence. In the Western or Occidental portion of your world, it is also true that it is those who have dedicated their lives to the seeking of truth who have created the sacred literature that is revered and honored by seekers of truth. However, the society of the Occident is not woven of a fabric in which religious figures are essential. Priests, pastors, and Western rabbis are appreciated and honored. However, the office of priest, pastor, or rabbi is most usually considered to be a career. It is work done for pay. The priest is generally given time off, like any other worker, and has vacations from his spiritual career. There is perhaps the same degree of devotion in many of those who are spiritual leaders in the West as in the East. Within orders of monks and nuns, dedicated seekers are able to offer their entire lives in devotion to the one infinite Creator. Yet these societies are set apart from the villages, the towns, and the cities. They are not an intrinsic part of every neighborhood. They are not a familiar sight within the little area of streets and lanes in which you may live. There is a different emphasis and stress placed on religious seeking or the spiritual walk in the Western world. It may be noted in this regard that many of the most beloved of writers in the Western world are those of the minority who are monks and have been able to devote their entire life, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, to the pursuit of the mystery. What unites the East and the West in their attitude towards spiritual masters or teachers or spiritually mature entities is that it is assumed that the rest of the village or the tribe or the city will not be spiritual masters. That job is given to the one entity within the village or tribe who is spiritually gifted and has been chosen to be the guru, the shaman, or the priest of the tribe or village in the East. In the Western world, the job of spiritual leader is given to those few who feel called to a special vocation. The rest of the people are content to attend services and listen to the wise words being given from the pulpit. They receive their Sabbath sermons and feel comfortable about moving back into the secular world and not thinking about spiritual things until the next Sabbath. Indeed, in many cases among the people of your modern culture, it is not deemed necessary to think about spiritual things at all, except in the same way one thinks about politics or sports or the latest popular show on your television. It is part of the universe of normal life. It may not be deemed necessary to consult spiritual leaders, such as priests, rabbis, and pastors, except on appropriate occasions such as marriages, baptisms, and funerals. The vast majority of entities, then, whether in the East or in the West, are content to think of themselves in non-spiritual terms. They are just people living their lives. Indeed, if one were to suggest to many people that they, too, are priests, there would be no feeling of resonance on the part of those who heard such a thought. They would say, "I am not at all priestly. I am a worldly person. I do not know very much about spiritual things. I could never be a priest. I could never be a shaman. I could never be a spiritual leader. I do not have the time, the energy, or the focus that it takes to become spiritually mature." We would suggest, on the other hand, that each of you is already a priest. Your very nature is sacred. Every cell of your body is full of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. The one known as G was saying earlier that there was often the sense that he was very close to this realization of oneness with all. He was often very close to this feeling of all things being sacred and all things being one. And yet there seemed to be a glass wall, a portion he could not see and could not penetrate, that kept him from those realizations of oneness. We would agree with the one known as G. The one known as A also spoke of feeling walls around his heart so that he could not be transparent or undefended in his daily life, but rather took care and caution in dealing with a somewhat hostile environment. For so he has found this world to be. And we would say that most entities upon your world find their environment often a hostile one, hostile to their safety, hostile to their comfort, and hostile to any sense of true freedom. The people of your planet have given away their power. For the most part, they have lost their conviction that they are priests. They have lost the sense of themselves as magical and powerful entities. Much has been written within your people's society and popular books concerning the feeling in modern society of being cogs in a machine, being less than human somehow. They are asked at every turn, what is your social security number? What is your driver's license number? What is your passport number? What is your bank account number? A name is not unique enough to be satisfactory to the culture which wishes to identify entities carefully. And so there is less and less reliance upon the quality of a human being and more reliance upon that number, that series of integers that cannot in any way, shape, or form express the depth and richness of the personality, character, and being of the souls of planet Earth. We would suggest to you, my brothers and sisters, that it is possible to choose to take back your power, to recover your sense of magic, and to become priests in your daily life once again. We would wholeheartedly agree that your culture no longer offers you the time to dedicate your life to the seeking of the one infinite creator on a full-time basis. There are still orders in all religions which offer a limited number of places for people to cast all worldly cares aside and focus on the seeking of the one infinite creator. But there are very few of these places. And there are even fewer entities who wish to abandon the worldly life and to enter such a restricted and secluded cloister for a lifetime of religious observations and rituals. Your world has become secularized to a great extent. Yet this need not concern the spiritual seeker who wishes to become mature. The questioner asked about three qualities: time, energy, and focus. Certainly, most entities do not have time for full-time seeking, in the sense that they do not have time away from the responsibilities of making a living to pay their bills, of tending to the relationships within their family, or of fulfilling their responsibilities as members of the community and citizens of the world, nation, and region, whether it be a state, a province, or a parish. Yet there remain two aspects to consider besides time: energy is the second of the three aspects. Certainly, your physical energy is limited. In the worldly sense, there is a finite amount of energy, and once the physical body has been depleted of its physical energy, it seeks sleep. The exhausted body will spontaneously sleep, given any opportunity, as the one known as Jim noted. Yet there is an entirely different kind of energy that is not necessarily depleted by the process of earning a living, tending to one's relationships, and fulfilling one's responsibility in the community. That is your vital energy, the energy of spirit. It is certainly easy enough to allow one's vital energy to be sapped. Yet it is not sapped by physical work, as is physical energy. It is sapped, my friends, by tolerating cynicism, boredom, and negative thinking within one's thinking process. It is extremely easy to become cynical and bored when gazing at an obviously imperfect culture, and such an attitude builds upon itself. If one is not cynical and bored, one may batter oneself against the seemingly impenetrable bastions of power, attempting to change those things which a seeker may feel are not right, not righteous, not appropriate. And many a cynic has been born of youthful attempts to change the world, only to find that it was quite resilient and not amendable to change. And so the seeker yields, gives up, and allows a world wariness to become the usual attitude. We would point out that this is a choice. There are other choices available that keep the questioning spirit alive, enthusiastic, and innocent of cynicism. The one known as Jim said earlier that either one becomes what one hates or what one loves. The energy that brings one towards spiritual material is the energy of seeking to become what one loves. A positive orientation may look at disaster and chaos and yet find hope, stability, and a vector towards peace. Some entities seem to be born with a gift for positivity and cheerfulness, and how such entities are appreciated by those around them. Yet, if one were to ask such a seemingly positive entity about one's attitude, if one were to become totally honest, one would speak of suffering and catalysts that was hard, catalysts that threatened that cheerful attitude. And one would speak of digging deep to find the will and the faith, to look beyond the obvious and to seek that energy which is unseen but ever near, that energy of love which is our nature, whether we are incarnate, discarnate, of density 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. This we all have in common. We are made of love. We can access that love through the use of will and faith. And this brings us to the third part of the query: focus. Focus is that which makes up for the lack of time and the on again, off again relationship with good and positive energy. In whatever state one finds oneself, if one can focus and become single-minded in the seeking of the one infinite creator, the world and all that there is in it becomes spiritual. All that one sees becomes sacred, from the least to the most, from the simplest to the most complex. All things speak eloquently of the one infinite creator. All voices are voices of love. That focus is the mark of any entity who is able to use the catalyst of planet Earth in order to achieve spiritual maturity. Whether that entity is a farmer, a mechanic, a factory worker, a teacher, an office person, a technician, or any mode of life whatsoever, including being a prisoner or being chained to the sick bed of physical limitation, one can become a priest. Focus is the key, my friends. We would offer you as an example of this the one known as Jim, who often expresses his feeling of being behindhand in his seeking. For he must spend his physical energy each day doing hard labor. This wears out his body so that it seeks sleep when he relaxes at night. Yet, were any of those who know this entity and his work to be asked what their estimate of this entity is, they would express the desire to learn from this entity. They would express the feeling that they perceive this entity to be a spiritual leader. This entity may be riding a mower, yet his very being resonates with the love and the light of the one infinite creator. There is no truly spiritualized entity who believes in his or her own spirituality as being adequate, or who would call themselves spiritually mature. That is something that is only part of the self-concept of those who have not yet become mature. The closer towards sainthood a spirit in flesh comes, the more that spirit is aware of the flesh, aware of the imperfection and the impurity, aware of the miles yet to cross to become truly priestly. That does not keep such entities from being priests. We would suggest to you that it is entirely possible for all entities upon planet Earth at this time, whatever their station in life are, whatever their schedule, their responsibilities and their restrictions are, to become spiritually mature through the single-minded focus of the desire of the heart on the one infinite creator. There are different ways to express that evocation. There are different ways to manifest that single-mindedness. Yet all have in common the goal of oneness with the beloved that is the creator of all. That great mystery and paradox, which we call the one infinite creator, having no better words to describe the ineffable and indescribable. And we would suggest one thing more to you, my friends. Were a critical mass of you to take up that single-minded focus on love, your world would be transformed. It would not be necessary for every human being to decide to change their focus for this to happen. Look at the difference made by even one entity that chooses to focus on love. His life becomes sacred to him. His life becomes sacred to him, and he then functions as a priest. Imagine the impact of groups of entities living in the world, yet choosing also to take part in an informal priestly collective, as that love is in the mind and in the heart. We have spoken before through this instrument concerning the need for a new paradigm, a need for a new way of thinking. For as you think, so shall you act. Focus your thoughts on love and see your life become transformed. It is not that you are transforming anything. It is that you connect with the truth when you focus on love. And that truth carries you where you could not go of your own human will. Your whole concept of self becomes greater, and at the same time, that personality and that ego becomes less. As you focus on love and allow the magic of transformation to occur in your life. It will not take you away from your job necessarily, but moving yourself into accord with love will yet transform your world. We are those of QO. We thank each of you for the beauty of your auras and essences, and for your dedication in taking this time apart from your life simply to seek the truth in company with those who also have every fiber of their being pointed towards the great mystery and paradox that is the one infinite creator, that one great original thought of love. We leave you in that love and in that light, which is the manifestation of love. We leave you in the house of the one infinite creator. We are known to you as the principle of QO. Adone, Adone Vasu.